Hello and welcome to the latest episode of First Word in Sport. We're recording this as usual on Monday evening. How are you, James?
Good, thank you. Feeling a lot better than I did this morning. But yeah, all good. Looking forward to having a quick roundup of sports this evening.
So let's crack on. Very good golf tournament in the end last night. The Cognizant Classic from Florida. Wild final round. Yeah, it was compelling viewing in the end.
Can't say I watched it. I only heard about the result when I
Well, it
woke
was
up
it
this
was it was
morning.
a strange final round in that Lowry wasn't playing particularly well, but was making things sort of happen. And then at the turn, Echeverria was one clear after the ninth hole, and it felt like he was in pretty good position. And then Lowry suddenly went crazy. He was 5 under for the next 5 holes with an eagle, all sorts weird and wonderful things happening. And it looked like he was going to win comfortably. He was 3 clear. And then suddenly on, was it 16?
Yeah.
He took an iron off the tee. It's not a long par four, but, it's a hole you have to hit the fairway. And he blocked his iron miles right into the stream and had to drop it miles back and ended up he actually hit an incredible bunker shot for his fifth shot. He got up and down just to make a double. And at the same time, Echeverria birdied 17, probably a little bit lucky with his tee shot. I think he may have thought it was wet. Drained the putt, big fist bump, all level. And then Lowry stuck one, 30 yards into the water on 17, proper bottle job. And that was pretty much tournament over. It was, I think, Lowry traded at 1.03 on Betfair. It was a pretty wild final few holes.
The bear pit, as they call 16, 17, 18, got Lowry yesterday. And yeah, he looked pretty emotional. Would have been his first single win in 4 years. He's only won since New Orleans Classic, didn't he, with Rory a couple of years ago when they won together as a pair. Yeah.
Well,
I just don't understand when he's 3 clear, when he's just gone crazy for 5 or 6 holes. He's safety first. He's taken out the iron when I just don't understand it. Looking back on it, he's probably looking back on it himself going, I should have just hit a 3-wood up there or something like that. Just 2 poor shots, wasn't it? At the wrong time.
yeah, I mean, the second one obviously was compounded by the first one. I mean, we talk about it in loads of different sports in terms of that mindset when you change from being aggressive to being defensive. And we certainly see it in things like football quite a lot where teams sit back and not much good comes out of it unless you are seriously good at doing it and knowing what you're doing. So there's one thing Tiger used to be brilliant at was he could switch between aggressive and negative but more conservative golf as the situation required, and he was brilliant at it. So he wouldn't chase when needed. And
Yeah, that's the thing. He just went super negative on 16 tee shot and bad swing thoughts on 17. And just, yeah, it's shows it's how hard it is to win a golf tournament, though, and how much pressure these boys and how much means to them as well. Yeah, it's not easy.
well, it was interesting to hear his interview after, where he was saying that he only really wanted it for his 4-year-old daughter, who hasn't seen him win yet. So he was almost imagining her running onto the green, and weirdly, it sounded like he'd got a little bit ahead of himself, and he'll be feeling mortified for her more than himself. He doesn't strike me as someone who he'll obviously care, but I think there's probably some truth in what he's saying.
Absolutely. But yeah,
So, I mean,
missed opportunity big time for him.
this week on the PJ Tour, we go to Bay Hill. So obviously that wasn't an amazing field last week. I mean, just quickly, I'm sure I've told you a story about Echevarria before, where I was with a friend. We were playing Pebble Beach, and we were getting a shuttle bus from Pebble Beach to Spyglass, and you end up sort of waiting in the lot for 15, 20 minutes in the minibus. And there was one other person in the bus with us just waiting, and it was Echevarria, and we were talking to him for a little bit.
Just happened to drop it in there that you're playing Pebble and Spyglass there. How do you do? Just a little
Someone
jaunt
has
over
to,
to
James.
California.
Someone has to. So it's weirdly someone who sort of kept a disproportionate eye on. He played well yesterday down the stretch. He was pretty good value for his win, I think. So slightly better field this week at Bay Hill for the Arnold Palmer Invitational. Scotty is favourite 4.7. Obviously won this tournament a couple of times before. McIlroy second favourite at 12. He's also won it. He's won it once before. And then we've got the likes of Fleetwood, Schauffele, etc. Always a fun tournament. As I say, when you know the golf course, I just think it adds something to the event.
I was just checking that. Is this one of the events that Brooks Koepka can't play in because it's a signature event? Or is he in this week?
Not sure if he can play or not, if I'm honest.
So yeah, all the big boys are there on the PGA Tour. They're all playing, all turning up, aren't they? So yeah, and there's only another month till first major, the Masters. So yeah, they're all playing now, and they've got the Players weekend after as well, aren't you? So
got Players next weekend, yeah.
Yeah.
So decent golf there. On the European Tour, it'll always be a European Tour, not a DP World Tour nonsense. South African Open, again, quite an interesting story here was Casey Jarvis. He was gone back-to-back wins on the European Tour, which is having won the Kenya Open last week. So, I mean, we do see this happen a few times. It's not as rare as you might think, but a player suddenly hits a bit of form and goes bang bang. But as a South African, obviously meant an awful lot to him, and it had a little bit of a wobble at the end, but in the end won pretty well.
Yep, and the Live is from Hong Kong this week, starting on Thursday from Hong Kong from where's that golf course? Can't remember it out. But yeah, all the big boys are in Live, I think. I'm not sure if Phil Mickelson's there this week, but Live is on. So that's on TNT Sports here in the UK now, isn't it? So yeah, Live this week. Hong Kong is overnight, obviously, so for UK times, but yeah.
So interesting week of golf. Let's talk rugby union, James. We have 6 nations coming up. We have Ireland, Wales, Scotland, France, Italy, England. So I think Ireland, Wales is Friday night, isn't it, this week? And then we've got a couple of games on Saturday. Scotland, France, 2:10, Italy, England, 4:40. Any particular thoughts?
Ireland look like they can be unchanged, I'd imagine, on Friday night, 8:10 against Wales. Wales have lost their fly half. Sam Costello, he's injured out the tournament. So they either need to go to Jared Evans or Dan Edwards back at 10. Can they back up their performance against Scotland? The Welsh, yeah, they'll give Ireland a game for 20 minutes, but if Ireland turn up and be that aggressive and that on point that they were at Twickenham, they're going to be hard to beat in Dublin. And it'll be good to see how Jack Crowley goes at 10 again. And McCloskey, he's been impressive at the age of 33. You fancy Ireland there. Scotland against France is obviously the game of the weekend. Saturday afternoon, 2:10 UK time. Obviously, we're doing this when we don't know the team news. Jack Dempsey is back fit and available. The number 8 back rower for Scotland. Will he come straight back in the team? What will Scotland do on the wings? Will they play Darcy Graham? Will they play Van der Merwe? Will Blair Kinghorn play? Tom Jordan play? So there's question marks what Gregor Townsend will do, and also what the French will do in second row. Will they pick their mobile back row, play second row, i.e. play 5 back rowers, or they go for more hefty, traditional second rows? TBC, just don't know what Gautier is going to do. And then all eyes on Rome for 4:40 Saturday afternoon UK time. Can England avoid a defeat? They're the only team in the Six Nations who haven't lost to Italy at all ever. So what can they do? And England name their team tomorrow, I believe, but the rumours are that they're making 9 changes. So starting 15 will be Genge, Cowan, Dickey, Hayes, Toje, Alex Coles, Guy Pepper's back in, Ben Earl and Tom Curry, Ben Spencer, Finn Smith, Caden Murray, Seb Atkinson, Tommy Freeman, Tom Roebuck, and fullback they reckon is going to be Elliot Daly. So 9 changes. Only 1 back survives. Freeman moving back to 13. They are adamant that they want Freeman as a 13 for the World Cup. Yet to be convinced. But Borthwick gave him a chance against Ireland and has now wielded the axe and looks like Ford's out the 23 and Stewart. So he's dropped Chesham as well. He'll be on the bench. But yeah, it's a big weekend and England need to win. There's no 2 ways about it. They just need to get back on a winning way. They need to go to Rome, stamp their authority, start being nasty, start being test match rugby animals. Don't listen to the noise and go there and put a performance on, because the last 2 have been shocking, as we all know. So yeah, kind of looking forward to the game, but with a bit of nervousness as an England fan.
It would be nice if the game isn't over within about 15 minutes.
Correct. Because in rugby, you said it earlier a bit about if you go on the defensive, it's very hard to switch that mindset and become ultra aggressive that England need to be. So I'd expect the riot act has been read by Borthwick and the players themselves. So let's see. You can pretty much tell in the first 5-10 minutes of a rugby game at this level, international rugby, what's going to happen. If England aren't on point and they, knock a couple of balls on or they don't get the breakdown right, then it could be a long afternoon. The one saving grace for England actually in this tournament so far is their scrum has been very good. Take away Cowan Dickey's throwing against Ireland, but at least they're bringing back Pepper, so they've got another line-out option. Is the front row stood up. Genge's scrummaging's improved and Hayes' scrummaging's improved enormously. So they might have that. If they didn't have that, then they'd be in a whole world of trouble. But
what do you think about, obviously, so many changes? Is it just an acknowledgement that he's got it wrong, or is it acknowledgement that they just haven't turned up, or is it an acknowledgement that they need to give others opportunities?
all of the above. I think you give them one opportunity against, obviously, Scotland, then they repeated the same errors against Ireland. So you can't carry on picking those players again. If they continue to make those errors twice in a row, then you've got to wield the axe. It is an awful lot of changes. To make 9 changes out of 15 is a lot. They've had the Farrow week, obviously.
Do you think there'll be continuity issues?
Yeah, you've got combination issues. You look at the Ben Spencer, Finn Smith don't play together at club level at all. Then you've got Seb Atkinson, who's never played with Finn Smith, 10 and 12. Tommy Freeman at 13. So Elliot Daly, you'll see coming back from his broken arm on the Lions trip. I'm surprised that Furbank's not playing. Will Furbank be on the bench, or they can pick Marcus Smith on the bench and 6-2? So there are question marks about those, continuity and things like that. So yeah, it's a must win, and they have to put performance on as well. Otherwise, if they lose and they go to France in a last game and they get beat there's going to be an awful lot of noise, and he will be under pressure. Don't care what people say. It's only a year out, but yeah, under pressure there. Another thing on rugby union is, so you still got the Pacific Super Rugby still going on. There's still no news about Scott Robertson's replacement down in New Zealand. And there's a very powerful documentary with Ben Youngs, Lewis Moody, MMD, HIAs, head injuries on BBC. It's quite a powerful documentary. I've only
Is
watched the
this a
first
new
five,
one?
10 minutes. It's a new one. It was out this morning, Monday. I've only watched first 5 or 10 minutes. Wasn't really in a frame of mind to watch it. It'll be a tough watch, but I think it's worth watching. It needs highlighting. I've talked about it on football podcasts, on R1 and on others, that sport does have an issue with concussion. One takeaway from it is Anthony Watson, the ex-England and Lions winger, what a player he was, by the way, outrageously talented, load of injuries. He's admitted in it that he lied, and on an HIA, he learnt the 5 words that he needed to learn to pass the HIA in a Lions test match in New Zealand back in the day when he got smashed
But that's
and he
not.
came back on.
I mean, that's not a massive surprise, is it? I mean,
No.
let's be honest. Is you're so desperate to stay in the team, contribute. You're always going to. I'm sure that there's been so many situations where the players have not been truthful in terms of symptoms of concussion and that sort of stuff. I mean, it's not difficult just to look on the internet and see, y- find these sorts of things out.
Yeah, and fair play to Gary Ringrose in the Lions tour just gone down to Australia. He pulled himself out and he's never played. He's 30 now. He doubtfully he'll play for the Lions again, Gary Ringrose, because he's had concussion symptoms. But yeah, it was only been 2015 since HIA has been brought in. So it's only been 11 years. So yeah, it's, yeah, as I say, the first 5, 10 minutes, it was a tough watch. I wasn't really in the frame of mind to watch it earlier this evening. So I'll watch that the next day or so, yeah. So it'll be worth a watch just to listen to these guys talk about it.
Rugby league, anything interesting happen, James?
Whole KR went to Vegas and decided not to play rugby league and went to the casinos by the sounds of it. He got absolutely pummeled by Leeds on Saturday night in Vegas, 58-4 or something ridiculous, wasn't it? And
58-6.
58-6. I scored a consolation try. Well done, lads. Yeah. After their, I mean, pretty tough schedule, to be honest, when they've just had that high of winning the World Cup Championships against Brisbane in Hull, to get on a plane to go to Vegas with all those things going on, and then having to turn up against Leeds, who has started the season quite well. And it shows in rugby league, though, if you're slightly off, you're going to get absolutely pummeled. And they were slightly off. And yeah. But yeah,
Got
no,
pummeled.
absolutely pummeled. I'm sure they weren't too bothered about it, having a couple of beers in Vegas and having a couple of whatever they do in Vegas. But yeah, we're going to start the season very well. They annihilated Lee Leopards on Thursday night. They're looking probably the favourites for the title. But again, his injuries, I think Wigan have got the best side. I think we've got 2 outstanding players in Jyfield and Bevan French, the 2 Australians. Keep them fit, then they'll take some beating. But yeah, it just continues. Bradford beat Toulouse. So yeah, fixtures all the time. There's fixtures this weekend. One standout is probably St Helens versus Bradford, bringing back all the memories. See how St Helens started quite well as well. So see how Bradford fare there at St Helens.
So switch sports. Let's look at cricket. Obviously, the T20 World Cup continues. We are now at the semi-final stage. So we know that South Africa are going to play New Zealand on Wednesday at 1:30. And then on Thursday at 1:30, we have England, India. Should be 2 cracking games. Looking forward to both. Should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, England pulled a heist, didn't they out last week when they beat, who they beat in the last game? They beat when Harry Brook went crazy to hit one of the best sixes you're ever going to see over square leg on Friday. They beat New Zealand, didn't they? They chased
New
down New
Zealand,
Zealand
yeah.
on a turner in Sri Lanka. So they won 3 out of 3 in Sri Lanka, England, and without any of their top order. I mean, Salt, he's just bang average. He just doesn't move his feet and just waxed down the line. And I thought like what it was me watching Zach Corley play Test cricket, watching him bat recently. Just like no feet movement and just hit whatever line you can do, and if you nick off, you nick off. And anyway, he's had one innings this tournament. Josh Butler can't even hit the ball off the pitch, let alone the square at the moment. He looks all at sea, and he hasn't got past. And people say he's got a good ball. He did get a good ball, but when you're in no form at all, and he is in no form, you're going to edge that. And
but just quickly on that. So what you also find a little bit is when he's bang out of form like he is it gives the bowler so much more confidence in terms of thinking, just take your lines and lengths and not be worried about him, carting you all around the park. It's amazing how the mindset switches when you're up against a player who's out of form compared to imagine trying to bowl to Harry Brook at the moment. It'd be like, no thanks.
Well, we've been calling about it, haven't we, to bat him up in the top of the order, because you want your best player to face as many balls as he can do. You only got 120 legal balls. Why is he batting at 5? The one shot behind the one he hit off the quick bowl over square leg for an enormous 6, just outrageous. When he
Off the
backed away,
scoreboard.
he backed away, and they were bowling on the stumps at 90 miles an hour, and he's creamed it through the covers at a rate of knots, and it's hit the boundary boards, and the players haven't even moved, and it's just like hand-eye coordination. It's just ridiculous. Like it's
I do think when you watch him, he does still have a tendency to move too much
and too early.
Like in terms of, and it's a difficult one because he is an out. We touched on it when we were talking about him in that first test in the Ashes, a few months ago. But his talent levels are insane. But I do watch him and just think you don't need to be doing quite the things that he does, given how well he, strikes it.
Just bat Popley, he's going to score 150 strike rate anyway, and but he just does something stupid all the time. As you say, like he'll do that ramp shot to someone who's bowling at 150 clicks or something when you just smash it down the ground. Just bat Popley and you're going to score because your range of shots are good. So now they go back to India where they were downright poor in the first group stages. Smaller pitches, smaller grounds, playing India the host. Good luck, but
India haven't been particularly impressive in this tournament.
No, exactly. And they played really well, India, to get over the line on Sunday when they was a quarter-final.
What an innings that was from Samson.
That looks a bit of a genius stroke from Gambhir, moving Samson up to opening the batting. They have a right-handed and a left-handed opening bat rather than having the two left-handers opening. So the one thing in the match up to that, so it looks like India might have 5 left-handers in the top 7 or 8. And England's 2 best spinners are Liam Dawson, who's left-arm spin, bowling into the pads, and we know what happens there, and Adil Rashid, who's a leg spinner who traditionally will bowl it into the pads. So you'll have to bowl some wrong uns. So do England they'll pick Will Jacks, who's been their player of the tournament, obviously. Do they pick Rehan Ahmed, who is mighty impressive? He hasn't played at all, World Cup debut, and he comes in and smashes 24 of 8 or something, which is one of the most outrageous 6s as well, off the penultimate ball of the 19th over, or the last ball of the 19th over. I would pick him just because he's fearless. He's obviously a clearly very good batsman. He can offer you some overs if you need to. Who do you pick him for? That's the problem. Because you'll need that extra seamer, I think. You can't go into a World Cup semi-final with just Sam Curran and Jofra.
Yeah, it's going to be. I'm just looking forward to it. As I say, obviously India come in with all the reputation, and in this format, that all it takes is one like Harry Brook innings, and you do very well to win.
Yeah, I would like to see a place to get in Rehan Ahmed. I just can't see where they're going to fit him in teams. They're not going to drop Salt. They're not going to drop Butler, and they're not going to drop Banton. England don't really do this under McLaren. So, yeah,
Under who? McLaren?
McCullen. I did say McCullen. Sorry, I obviously got a bit of man flu, but yeah. It could be his last game with England coach, though.
I can see you salivating at the prospect already.
Shouldn't be. He should be given a golden handshake and told to go back to New Zealand and his horses and his wine in New Zealand. Can't stay on. I'm sorry, it's just can't forgive him over what happened in the Ashes.
So just looking at the other, obviously match, South Africa, New Zealand. South Africa have been pretty impressive. Every time I've seen them, that middle order scoring runs for fun for them. They've won a lot of games pretty comfortably. They've looked good.
They've got batsmen in form, haven't they? Aidan Markham's third top run score, got 268 already. He looks in form. Ravers is good. De Kock really hasn't fired yet. Yeah, they're hard to beat. They're the only unbeaten side left in competition. Obviously, they had that double super over win early in the tournament, but they've got some bowlers as well. Like Nokia can't get outside, and he's useful. No, they rested Janssen, they rested Rabada last game out, so they will be tough to beat. They've got some big hitters, and most importantly, in form. And New Zealand look like a team that have been on the road a long time, which they have been because they've been playing in India, obviously before this tournament. And you can see that with Darryl Mitchell. He again can't get the ball to square when 4 or 5 weeks ago he was making batting, albeit in ODI cricket, looking absolutely ridiculous. Those 3 ODIs, he just looked like Bradman-esque. It was ridiculous. So
It is always amazing to me how quickly players come in and out of form. It really doesn't take much. I mean, the problem for the likes of Mitchell, Butler, and others, De Kock, is you don't have enough time in this format to really find your feet. It's not like you can grind out a runner ball 50. That's absolutely no use.
yeah,
You almost,
Butler said that. He said in ODI cricket, you can just bat for a couple of overs kind of thing if you're early on kind of thing. And even in obviously longer format, red ball cricket, he could just bat for an hour, 2 hours. He could do. Doesn't matter if you score 2 runs or 5 runs, you eventually get your timing back. But yeah, one news is Matt Henry going to be available for New Zealand? He went back home for the birth of his second child, so I've not heard any news about him being available or not. If not, they'll pick Carl Jamieson, the big, tall, quick. But yeah, if Henry's not available, not playing, that is a massive loss. He's a serious bowler. His control of line and length at pace, high paces, yeah, useful. Zach Crawley's still having nightmares around him.
I mean, it seems a strange one in the middle of a World Cup to head home for. Yeah, I don't know.
Not as if it's like, his
It's not round the
family comes
corner.
first, isn't it?
I know, but it's not round the corner. I mean, you basically got 4 or 5 days potentially to make it through and then head home.
Yeah, but I haven't, before I came on, I haven't seen if he's coming back. I hope he is coming back because that would be a big loss if he doesn't play. But yeah, 2 good games and then the finals on Sunday, I believe.
Yeah, it should be a great week's cricket. It's always fun. I'm not sure I'd want to chase a total of 170, 180 under pressure, to be honest.
To bat first and put runs on the board and scoreboard pressure.
I think so, if you can. I just think it's always very difficult. It's so easy just to lose your way on those run chases.
Especially, yeah, when the pressure's on and you
Well,
got to go at.
against loads of spin and it just gets very tricky.
Yeah, 2 good games Wednesday and Thursday this week. Just had a bit of cricket news. Women's side, Alicia Healy, she's retiring, the Australian captain. She, in her last ODI game, made 158 off 98, as you do for your last ODI game. Just helps the averages a bit, yeah, but Mitchell Stark's better half, obviously. So, yeah, fair play to her. She's retiring. I think they've got a test match coming up soon, the Australian against India girls as well, so ladies, sorry. Yeah, so handy when you make 158 off 98 in your last game.
I saw quite a funny clip of her recently trying to bowl. No.
Have you seen Mitchell Stark wicket keeping?
No.
He was a wicket keeper growing up. It's mightily impressive. It's unbelievable how good he is. He's 6'6", quick bowler, one of the best bowlers of his generation, and his keeping's outrageous. It's brilliant. His clips going around, it's fantastic. Yeah, might be old clips, but I imagine he's obviously not playing at the moment. But yeah, it's
Let's talk darts. So last week we had Premier League from Belfast. Stephen Bunting was unbelievable, actually. He caught fire, should we say, and had multiple games where he was averaging 105 plus, won really easily. But the big story really was probably Josh Rock hitting a 9-darter in front of his home crowd in Belfast. It was quite a cool moment to watch. I think it was, it clearly meant an awful lot to him. He was getting absolutely pummeled in the match itself. So it was a little bit of a small solace, should we say. But what was interesting about it was that it was just how, when you watch a 9-darter, the final treble 20 went in the middle of the bed. The treble 19 went in the middle of the bed. It felt like there was no doubts it was going to happen.
Yeah, great scenes. And then the next day, he couldn't even hit 20, let alone a treble 20. It's just like he just got thumped. Looking out of his depth, actually. Yeah, but Bunting won, and both Lukes haven't won a game yet. I think they've won 2 games between them or something, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, Littler benefited from Van Gerwen pulling out just to make a semi-final that one time. So this week we're in Cardiff. So Gerwin, I'm sure, is looking forward to this. So we have Van Gerwen against Humphreys, Van Veen against Clayton, Gerwin Price against Bunting, and Littler against Rock. I'm sure that Littler and Humphreys will turn up sooner rather than later. They're clearly too good not to. I think it does show the weakness of the format, really, that they're going to be able to play as poorly as they have through the first 4 weeks. And the reality is it won't make much difference.
The form player at the moment is Johnny Clayton. He's back home as well in his home country as well. So he's a form player. So he's up against Van Veen. Yeah, I like Johnny Clayton. He's the older statesman of it and goes about his business without really much fanfare. And he's useful, very useful, playing well.
So this week we have on the Friday. So it looks like we have UK Open from Minehead this week. That's, as you described it, as the FA Cup of the darting calendar. So
yeah, so round by round and just draws. No seedings, off you go. So you could play Littler Humphreys in round 1. I think they join a bit later, the top seeds, but I think they join in round 3 or something, whatever it is. But there's no seeding, so yeah, you could play Littler versus Humphreys in round 3, the first available stage for the top players, live on ITV4 here in the UK, Friday to Sunday.
I quite like the not having seeded players. I know they get a lot of benefit from having a Littler Humphreys type final, but I'm not saying I'm bored of it, but it'd be nice. It's nice to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, it's good, and it's quite quick. There's loads of players. They've got loads of boards there. So yeah, they've got obviously the main board that'll be on TV, but they've got other boards. I think they've got like 5, 6 boards, and anyone can qualify. The qualifiers have gone on previously, but you can. It's like the golf. You can qualify if you're good enough. You can qualify for the Open kind of thing. So yeah. So Friday to Sunday, Sunday night final. I think it's not set. It's best of the legs. So it's that kind of tournament.
So just one sport we'll touch on just very briefly is tennis, because what's interesting with tennis is Indian Wells is on this week. So big sort of ATP, WTA event. and it's looking like the whole situation with regard to Iran and the Middle East is complicating things in terms of travel. A lot of coaches and etc. are all stuck in Dubai and places like that at the moment. So I don't quite know how or what the knock-on consequences will be for this Indian Wells tournament. I think as a bigger point is anything taking place in the Middle East at the moment has to come under some doubt, certainly for the next month or so. Although you can touch on it when we get to horse racing, James, but there were some quite crazy scenes at Meydan the back end of last week. But that was just tennis. In terms of boxing, so big news this week was that Usyk is going to defend his heavyweight title against a kickboxer. A very successful kickboxer who goes by the name of Herven. And they're going to be fighting in Egypt by the pyramids. Sounds pretty pointless, money-grabbing exercise.
Correct. And then the only fun part last week was the Wardley versus Dubois press conference. That's generally a 50-50 fight happening in May. I think Wardley versus Dubois. So, yeah.
So one sport that kicks into action this weekend is Formula One. So we have Grand Prix from Melbourne this week, and we get to see properly what's happening with these new cars.
I don't think anyone knows what's going to happen at all, let alone the start. No one's ever seen a start properly. So, yeah, I think the race is at 4 o'clock UK time Sunday morning. So, yeah. Excuse me there. Yeah, so no one knows what's going to happen at all. The betting for the actual race mirrors almost as betting for the actual title. So, yeah, Russell's at the top of the market with Verstappen, Leclerc, all the other lots. So, yeah, who knows what's going to happen? We just don't know. It's one of those things where you have no idea.
I did see some of the bosses at Formula One were trying to get rid of this loophole that they think Mercedes have in terms of new engine rules. I mean, whether they're successful or not remains to be seen.
I think they're doing something on the 1st of June or the 1st of July, and they've kind of given Mercedes a bit of a rap across the knuckles kind of thing. So there is some sort of things that have happened for later in the season, but TBC again, you just don't know. It's one of those massive rule changes that I don't think teams or drivers know anything what's going to happen. So it could be an absolute mess, or it could be amazing. Who knows? I'm not sure I'll be getting up, set my alarm for 4 o'clock though, Sunday morning.
No, I don't think I will either, to be honest. Too much other sport on throughout the weekend. Just want to touch on American sports just quickly. NFL, the most interesting story of the week really was that Pickens and Pitts have both been franchise tagged. It means that other teams have the opportunity to match the offers that they have. So Pickens has $28 million contract for the season, effectively. Pitts 16.3. It's good. Look, I mean, in Pickens and CD Lamb, Dallas have genuine superstar combination, as good as anything in the league. So I'll be surprised if are not able to sort that out in terms of a new contract for Pickens at some stage. Pitts is a little bit stranger in that he had a good year, but he's been a bit of a disappointment since being very highly touted out of college. And on that theme, last week we had the NFL Combine where they do all their sort of tests, and try to show all the evaluators their skill sets, which all lead up to draft day in about 7 weeks' time, so 23rd of April, which always interesting to see exactly, where the big name players are going to be going.
Talking of Lamb and Pickens, when you have the most overrated quarterback behind you, doesn't matter how good you are.
I know you've always been a big fan of Dak.
No, he's rubbish at the top level.
NBA, there wasn't huge amounts. One thing that was interesting was there was a story about Alexander from Oklahoma, and he's just returned from injury, but it was quite noticeable that in that game, particularly one game against Denver, where he got double teamed, and it's quite interesting because it's not something that happens that much in basketball. And he was obviously saying, "Oh, that's fine." It's 4-on-3 elsewhere. It's quite interesting the sort of team dynamics at play. I remember seeing Steph Curry a couple of months ago, and I don't think people quite realize just how much attention players like him actually get, and they still perform at a crazy, crazy high level. Let's talk. So let's talk about snooker, which took place last week. We had the Welsh Open. Um, we had the Welsh Open title in. That was one in Llandudno, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, so London, no, Barry Hawkins beat Jack Larowski 9-5 in the final. That's the last real. Well, there's a couple more tournaments coming up. You've got the World Open in China starting 2 weeks today. And then they come back, they've got a week off, and then you've got the Tour Championship in Manchester on the 30th of March till the 5th of April. And all roads lead to the World Championships. You've got World Championship qualifiers on the 6th of April to the 15th of April. I think you've got 3 rounds. And the World Champ starts on Saturday, the 18th of April, and finish on Monday the 4th, bank holiday here in the UK. So, yeah, there's not long to go. They've only got a couple more tournaments to play until they get to the World Championships on the 18th from Sheffield, from the Crucible.
I can't remember. Did we mention last time we did pod about O'Sullivan signing up for the seniors tour
Yeah,
or the
2
world?
days after it starts, 2 days after the World Championship final, yeah.
Let's talk horse racing, James. Obviously, Cheltenham next week, which was a fun week. I mean, I touched on Maidan earlier. There was some racing from Maidan. Was it Saturday? Which continued in spite of some bombs, shrapnel falling in the area. Seemed pretty wild to me, but what do I know?
Yeah, it was a strange reading about it and watching the racing. A horse actually called Maidan actually won, double A in it. So on Saturday, the globe-tropping superstar from Godolphin, Rebels Romance, he won again in another group race. So he's just printing money. That's all leading up to the Dubai World Cup on the 28th of March. There's a fine-tuning for 28th of March is World Cup Day in Dubai. Yeah, as you say, you've got Cheltenham starts a week tomorrow, the 10th of March for 4 days. You've obviously got the Supreme, the first race of the day. So there's some talk this morning from Joey O'Brien about his youngster talk the talk. Excuse the pun, no pun intended. There were some murmurings over the weekend that he might go to the Turners, but he is going, there's some gamble money obviously coming in on the exchanges. He said he's likely to go and take his chance in the Supreme first race on Tuesday. We'll see. Ground looks like it's going to be drying out. Will it go good to soft or will it stay soft? We still haven't had an official going description from Cheltenham. It's only 8 days to go, lads. Don't worry about that at all.
I
Something
mean,
we've
well,
talked
you say that, but I mean, it doesn't really, apart from obviously, declarations or. I
Yeah,
mean, it
but
doesn't affect the.
no, but it'd be nice to know what it is at the moment. But anyway, it's they need to change how that's done anyway in the UK. It shouldn't be like, I should just do a 1 to 10 description, in my view. But there you go. The other news is that's wound me up a little bit is the Gold Cup market. So Gold Cup's Friday the 13th, and at the moment, excuse me, Factor File looks like he's running in the Ryanair. So you got Django Bay, the Jukebox Man, and Gator Warrior all fighting for favouritism. But the one takeaway is, I know the way you're thinking, last year's Gold Cup winner. It's been downright awful in his runs this season, Gavin Cromwell's horse. And then suddenly, back end of last week, he's been smashed from 25-1 into like 8-1 force favourite kind of thing for it. He's shown absolutely no form whatsoever. Cromwell's come out and said he's back to what he was pre-Gold Cup last year and shown all the signs of being a top-class horse, or we know he is. And
are you suggesting something nefarious is at play, James, in terms of those previous efforts?
Well, it has to be investigated. If that horse runs any sort of race, you can't have three. It's not like bad performances. Pulled up like miles behind the winners of his runs that he's been running. Over Christmas in Ireland as well. Absolutely looking like a one-season wonder horse or one-race horse. And then suddenly he's now into fourth favourite, like from nowhere. And I'm not saying anything untoward, but it doesn't look great after what happened with Constitution Hill. And that is the big news from last week. Constitution Hill has been retired from jumping, so won't take his place, obviously, in the Champion Hurdle. Finally, Nicky Henderson's made a good decision on that horse. So all roads lead to, what does he do as a horse? Where does he go as a horse? Obviously, as the market up, will he run at Royal Ascot? We don't know anything. He's been given a little break, obviously, because all the big targets will be in the summer. And there's obviously some chat about going down to the Melbourne Cup in first Tuesday in November. So it's finally a good decision from Henderson to retire him from jumping. And yeah, it'd be great to see him over flat. Where he goes, who knows? But yeah, if he can cruise at that speed and have a turn of foot, it could be a very interesting flat horse.
I mean, I can't help but think back to Tiger Roll in terms of, when you were talking about horses that stunk the place out all year and suddenly, turn up and produce the goods, winning half the track. It's such a bad thing for horse racing when you see that sort of stuff.
Magic carrots, as we used to say offline. But yeah, so yeah, anyway, good 4 days racing next week.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm not going to lie. Any other sports caught your eye, James, or should we wrap it up there?
No, not really. It's just chugging on. There's always sport to watch, isn't there? So there's nothing really that's so now I'm looking forward to cricket this week, as we said, Wednesday and Thursday.
Well, it's a pretty good week sport, right? Because you've got good golf. You actually have really good cricket. Obviously, you've got Six Nations. There's a lot of pretty interesting stuff with Cheltenham around the corner.
Yeah, exactly. And you know that, as you said, golf's good because they're all preparing for the players next week, a week after today. So yeah, so fun time to see how much we can watch or whatever we can do. So yeah, always catch up with it. So yeah.
Okay, sounds good, James. Thank you very much.
Yeah, if anyone drops us any questions or whatever like that, we're happy to try and answer them. But yeah, we'll speak to you later in the week when we'll do the football podcast later in the week. Cheers all.